Let's do this. Welcome to Trekkie and Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Moneca.
And I'm Andrea. And we are here. The final 10th episode of Star Trek Discovery, Life Itself. What is the answer to the whole season long mystery? And we are getting it in this episode because Michael is now facing the answer to the truth of who can create worlds. Is Moll going to win? Is the Discovery going to die against the Breen? There's so many questions, so many faces, so many options. So let's get into this. Moneca, initial reactions.
Oh, this was a roller coaster ride of emotions because I know the season is ending and I know that this is not the way the crew and the cast wanted this to end because we all want more time with Star Trek Discovery. And unfortunately, this is the end. But in the episode, I felt so many emotions as I typically do, but there was a range of OMG, OMG, OMG to wait, what? What? Really? Is that what we're doing right now? To oh, this is so sweet. It's so much of a Hollywood ending. And so it's a Hollywood ending for the story, but not so much for the series. And so it's sad. It's very sad. It's sad. For as the series finale, I like it. I like it a lot. I feel like this was the last dance. These are my peeps, and these are the underdogs that have overcome so much. Far as the season, not so much. And we'll dive deeper into that because I felt like, wait, what? This is not, I still don't know who created this tech. Like, we've gone through all of this and I still don't have closure. And you all know, like, I like closure. So this was tough. So once again, lots of emotions running high right now. I would love to hear your side of this, Andrea.
It's just I watched this finale like 3 times, and it wasn't that it was bad. It's like they missed the mark almost. And for an ending of a series season long mystery, they did better. I wasn't like really pissed about the ending like it was at the end of episode season 3 and season 4. I do feel like they answered the question. There was some action. There was Discovery, like in the heat of the moment where you really didn't know, because it is the season, it is the series finale. You didn't know who was going to live, who was going to die, what was going to happen. The wrap up seemed rushed, and then like the ending of it seemed forced. And it wasn't bad. It left me wanting, and not because I'm like I can't wait for the next season, but it was like, maybe the front half could have been tacked on to the episode 9, and then episode 10 could have been its own thing. And I agree with you. It was not what the actors and the writers sort of wanted, but it was what they were given, or what they could do with it. Finding out this was the last season, but maybe they did it that way so it could like come back maybe in the future. Who knows? They can use the characters in other shows because it's not their like stories aren't truly wrapped up. So there's a lot of ambiguous stuff happening, but we will get into that in the deeper dive. But I remember texting Moneca like, was that the ending? Or was there another episode?
Yeah, I want to say also before I forget later that last episode, in episode 9, you mentioned that episode could have been shorter. And although there's lots of scenes in there that I wanted, I agree they could have added some aspect, like 15 to 20 minutes of this episode into that, and then opened up with the scene with like Larkin and Michael. We'll talk about that further, but I do want to mention that I agree with you with what you just said about the timing between the last episode and this episode, as well as the fact that when the writers wrote this season, they did not know that the whole series was ending. So therefore, I think the storyline just like had to change last minute, and then this last episode got like the brunt of the changes, and we're seeing that we don't see the synergy that we're used to seeing in a finale.
Yeah, there's a perfect spot that I think this episode should have started, and it's literally the moment when Michael figures out that it's one that was just such an easy opening, inverted triangle. Yes, for her when she sees that and then transports, and then we see that should have been the end of episode 9, and then the beginning should have episode 10 should have started immediately after that. Because a lot of what we saw with Michael in the little tech thing, we didn't need we didn't need all of that. That didn't need to be as drawn out as it necessarily was. So I really thought episode 9 should have ended at the triangle and her like, oh my God, it's you. And then go into episode 10, and then maybe they would have had more time. Because making episode 9 and making a little bit longer also could have worked as well. You're streaming. You got all the time in the world. There's no show coming on after you. So you could have made it 90 minutes. You could have made episode 9 and 10 90 minutes. And I think that would have helped this ending maybe not feel so as it was. But that being said, let's go into the deeper dive of the episode. So this episode starts off right after 9 ends. We see Michael basically falling into this unknown dimension or warp of space or whatever this place is, the Progenitors tech. And she is trying to find her way through. And we see multiple worlds that she is up in line with. So it's like, it almost makes it seem like the universe that they're in is just one of many that you can have access through this little piece of tech. What did you think of the opening scene?
I like what I'm calling the kaleidoscope. And it gave me like a Matrix feel, like that we're leaving reality and into a different space, like traveling through a portal. Because I think if it would have been a swift transition, it would have been harder for me, because all we do is see her walk into like a cylinder, and then it's the Alice in Wonderland fall, right? And then a hard thump land, and then waking up to a whole new space. So seeing that transition helped me mentally realize like this is a portal to some other strange place that we'll end up exploring. So that was interesting. And then we saw a bunch of windows like around with the different scenes of different worlds.
And in those worlds, we see that Michael gets into a fight with one of the Breen that is there. And somehow she's able to still access a computer in this tech, which is also very weird. It was like both explained and not like, why is there a random like, I don't know, it just seemed weird that the computer would answer to her, or is it just her tech? It just seemed weird that she had access to a computer and could just like bring it up, and like the Breen didn't have the same type of technology. That just seemed a little weird to me, but maybe I'm just overthinking it. Starfleet is just that advanced, they can use their computer anywhere. It just seemed weird to me. Sorry, you look like you want to say something.
I agree with you, especially when she asked the computer to tell her when the next hurricane was coming.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been different if she had some sort of device on her to scan for that, but it was different to make a voice call to some other dimension.
Yeah. So it was, maybe we're just missing something, but that part didn't make sense to me. And then we see that she runs into Moll, and Moll is doing what Moll does best: attack first, never ask questions. And Moll is, I will have to say, she is losing it just slightly. And I understand why, because she is sad. She wants Lark back. She wants him. She needs him. And she's so close and yet so far. And I just have to say, the whole scenes with Michael and Moll together, I just want to slap Michael so hard, because why? 10 more whys plus 20 more whys. Would you trust Moll ever? Would you ever turn your back on this woman? It does not matter. Moll has showed you at every point and turn and possibility that she will betray you to get her way. Regardless of the fact if she means to betray you or if it's just the best option for her to take, she's going to do that. And you literally had to kick the gun out of her hand because she was ready to, she had it on you. She had her sights set on you. And yet, the moment you think you can hear Discovery, you're like, you lose your faculties and you turn away. Why would you do that?
Also, she was injured. You helped her heal. She had a handicap at that point, which gave you an edge out, and then, so you help her heal and then fight her again. I don't get it.
Like, there is being the bigger person, there is being a humanitarian, there is like doing what is right, and then there's being stupid. Like and I just was like, there would be no part of me that would ever have turned my back on her. I would have healed you after I was safe and had what I needed. Like, as long as it wasn't life threatening and you were going to survive it, that could wait. Because you at full strength, you have always shown me you will never hesitate to attack me. Why would I ever put you back at full strength when it's just you and I and we're both going after the same goal? And I may be in a vulnerable position to get it.
Speaking of attacks, I really like the fight scenes and the acrobatic work, like when they were running up into like this vertical plane and
Mm-hmm.
then doing lots of flips. I'm sure there was wire work and other things, and but that was impressive. However, they made that work was impressive and cool looking. And so I think Sonequa Martin Green and the actress that plays Moll did a really good job making leading me into like this the fact that this space has different gravity has takes on different form, and so you can move around, and that it's an infinite plane, so it was believable.
No, the fight scenes were amazing. You were definitely correct. They were beautiful. It was a great choreographed. Sometimes I forget that like every like punch, kick, throw, thrust, push away, whatever that's called, it's like it's all a dance. It's literally every single hit is choreographed. And I just know I'm not a strong enough actor to be like, look, are we fighting for real or not? Because I feel like I would get too attached to the fight scene and be like, this is why I can't be an actor. Because if that punch looks like it hits me, then I'm done. But those fight scenes were amazing. They were phenomenal. But back with Discovery, they are in dire need of help. Because not only did they have the Breen ship that Moll was on, there's another Breen ship on its way. And Starfleet is trying to figure out what to do. And it's both forced and understood that Saru and Nan would be the ones to go. Because it's like they started with Discovery. It's like if something was to happen to the Discovery crew, it's like they're pulling all the original Discovery crew back in the final season, so everyone who's been a part of it is there. And I'm like, I get that, but it seemed also a little forced, in my opinion. Like, Saru going still made sense because he was in this episode. He was in like all the seasons actively. Nan like literally disappears for like 2 seasons and then comes back for the last 2-3 episodes. And it's just like, okay, maybe take more than just one other person with you in the shuttle. Like y'all can't just throw an extra seat or 2 or 3 or 4 in there for help. You're cloaking anyway.
I agree with you, but I also strongly believe that we're in this situation because Nan really allowed Moll to escape. At least they were locked down in the in the sick bay, and under her watch, Nan's watch, Moll escaped. So yes, Nan, you have to follow through and help close this because you said you got it, but you didn't have it really.
It was nice to see her on the screen again. Like, I'm not saying I didn't miss her, that it wasn't great to see her again. But it was just maybe more is more, less is not more, maybe more people, because you are still going up against a Breen ship that outnumbers you and outpowers you. And there's possibly a scout. There is a scout ship going as well. And you're outnumbered. Like, what is this being the underdog? Like, Starfleet, show a force.
Yes, if Bryce, Vance, and like Tarina went as well, I was like, really? But
Like,
I agree they should have had more security there with them. At least though it seems to be like a higher end shuttle. It doesn't seem to be a typical shuttle because they were able to move really quickly.
that's
And
true.
from what I remember from last season, the Federation was able to replicate a version of the spore drive that's not using like spore. So therefore maybe they were able to use that technology to help pick up the pace because they were able to catch up with Tahal's ship very quickly.
And then also they're racing towards Discovery because Discovery is trying to get to Michael. So they send out a book volunteers to fly closer to Michael because I guess watch the episode. It's amazing, but there's a lot going on. And Hugh volunteers to go, and I just have to say, either he is still connected or he is not. There is no in between. There is no in between because either you have part of the doctor still inside of you, or you don't, Hugh. But you don't just say I have a feeling because I'm gonna eat these words later in the episode. This is science. You'll know when I eat those words in the later of the episode. But Hugh, this is not feeling. This is science. And if everything says you are no longer connected to this person, like it was almost expected for Hugh to go because how he felt the last couple episodes. It's like they were leading up to he had a bigger purpose and what is he here for and all of this stuff. And it just was like, I need to go on this ship. How did I know it's supposed to be here? It just, I don't know. It felt his emotional, I don't even know what the word is called, but like aha moment while he was on the shuttle with Book just seemed so forced to me because it wasn't even like a subtle hint in the last couple episodes. It was just like, hey, he's gonna have he's gonna have an issue in these next couple of episodes, and it's all gonna get resolved because he's gonna remember one thing that he should not remember in a shuttle looking at the Progenitors tech. Because that's science.
If I remember correctly, Adira and Gray also went through a similar state. And so then the connections remained after. Maybe that is sort of kind of the case, but I really like the fact that Hugh clearly told Paul, look, this is what I want to do, husband. You're in with me because, like, this is not up for debate. And he clearly said that. And I think that sometimes you just have to have that discussion, not even a discussion. You just need to tell your partner, like, this is what I've decided I want to do. And I could tell that Paul was concerned, hurt that it wasn't up. But in the end, Paul let his guard down and agree to move on. I can see these relationships though working out in really sincere ways. There's a level of authenticity that's there in these storylines that I really like.
I mean, but like also, Paul, do you really have a leg to stand on, Mr. I inject myself with spores?
Exactly.
And that's not the part where I eat my words, people. So but they're going out to try and get closer to the Progenitor tech because the Breen ship is attacking them and they're trying to stay alive to get to Michael to get the tech that the Breen ship still wants to attack them for. So there is a lot still going on. We see Moll and Michael are trying to get to the puzzle to figure it out. And Michael, because Michael is Michael and believes the best in people, which is not a bad trait, but when someone has shown you there is no best in them until they get their way, maybe don't believe the best in people. She tells Moll the clue, which is a very simple clue, which I'm gonna be super honest. I thought it would be something. I figured with the actual puzzle, it would be a little bit more in depth. But basically, they come up to like 9 triangles, and basically the clue is like you have to see the outside in, like you have to see like the bigger picture. Like you can't do the obvious thing. And so Moll, who was a really smart person, does the obvious thing and builds into 9 triangles because she can't even think of. She's like, oh, it's not enough time to think and to actually solve the puzzle the way Michael gave her the answer for. It's a very obvious answer. Even I knew what the answer was looking at it. So Moll, why did we make a triangle? Why did we make an obvious triangle when the obvious answer was a triangle? I knew that answer. So Moll, I knew you knew that answer too. It was to make a triangle with the triangles, but the triangles on the inside, the triangles on the outside. I don't know what it's called, but that's what you were supposed to do. You're supposed to make an empty space to make the picture from the thing. So why did they have her make the wrong thing? I knew it was like the further the plot, but it just seemed like such an obvious answer that was like, why?
Because Moll was desperate,
Yes.
and second of all, Michael has studied more science and geometry to think about more of the big picture. I think it's all the Vulcan science and training that she had. I mean, she went into a Zen moment also before she solved that puzzle. Not as a Vulcan, she went into Vulcan meditation before she dived into that. But I do want to back up for a minute because Michael didn't solve the puzzle because she got distracted because Book called at the worst possible moment. Thank you, Book, for being available to help rescue. But he called right when the puzzle was there. And so Michael got distracted as her, man, her
And put her back to Moll.
Yes.
You put your back to Moll, who is desperate. And Moll is resourceful, she is cunning, she is ruthless, and now she is desperate. And you are wasting precious time that it will take to get the answer that she needs to bring the love of her life back. Do you think she cares? Let's be honest. Moll would love to live in that progenitor's world with Lark, bring him back, and they would live there forever. She would be content with that because she would have him. They got multiple worlds to vacation in.
I think that call from Book also reminded Moll that, like, oh yeah, Michael has her boyfriend and I'm missing mine. Mine right now is inside of like the replicator space. So I think that was also a trigger right there. Like if Hugh called or someone else, it would not have triggered as much.
Maybe.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, definitely, because we didn't hear Hugh's voice. I'm sorry, people. Am I dead inside? We'll never know. So, Moneca shook her head. Yes. So, moving on, Moll does the incorrect password and is like electrocuted, and because of that, it like has a chain reaction outside of the little tech, and Discovery and the Breen are now getting adversely affected by it. And so Michael wakes up, knocks Moll off of the thing, does the puzzle in the very obvious correct way. It would have been more shocking if they were supposed to put the triangles around the circle and something else was going to be formed, but for it to just neither here nor there. It's a very low tech answer. I'm just sorry. I'm just saying it's a very low tech answer. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, people. It's a very low tech answer. So, we see the progenitor come. That's the progenitor. Sorry. But the avatar of the progenitor space of where they're at, and find out that they're not even the ones who created the technology. Go ahead, Moneca. I see it in your face. You want to say something.
Yeah, so this is the part that I got frustrated in the episode because not only is it not the progenitors, so the progenitors are extinct. So they made like an avatar programs to train whoever will solve the puzzle to become the next like controller of the space. Okay. But then we also get another unveiling that they didn't create the portal. They were trained also by someone else. So this whole time we've been calling it the progenitors tech. It's not really the progenitors tech. We still don't know who's seen it.
Colonizers, because history is written by the winners.
So I don't have closure, and that's my frustration because for this 10 episodes, we thought that we were going to get to the point in which we found out this puzzle. We just still don't know.
And yeah, so Michael's given like a quick download of it, and basically she's allowed to do whatever she wants to do with it, which sort of explains the future when the Breen won, because it doesn't seem like there was really any safeguards to stop people from using it that it seems like there was. So it's like, oh, it's like almost earned, it's like an earned prize in the sense of you completed all the steps, so you earned it. Not that you're worthy. It's not a worthy prize. It's an earned prize. And Michael just wants to save her crew and doesn't really, she's very unsure of what to do with this technology. Like, what would you do if you were given the power to create like random life everywhere? It's a huge responsibility. So I understand her not feeling ready or being the right person to take it.
Okay, but at no point in time did President Rallick or Kovich or anyone say, okay, once you get to find this out, this technology, do this. Like, no, like, it's all of a sudden, oh, I found this out. You know, it's supposed to be very powerful. Like, oh, now what do I do? I was just puzzled by that. Like, you didn't know this was coming? I feel like you've had so much time to think about, okay, how are you going to safeguard it so that other people don't get it? And then what to do, how to protect it.
Very interesting.
That's frustrating. But what would I do if I was her? I mean, this could be an opportunity to restore like some of the species that the species 10C killed off. Or, I mean, should
Bring back
maybe
Quajon.
no, maybe not. But think about
So
a way
yes
to rock it.
and no. So you could bring back Quajon, but it wouldn't be the Quajon that book remembered, because
Right.
that was the issue with Lark. You could bring him back, but it wouldn't be the same version. And I'm gonna be super honest. I don't think Moll would have cared.
Right.
I do not think she would. If she made him fall for her once, she could do it again. Because the reason that he fell for her is all there. He's still that person. It's just it wouldn't be the version that she knew. But all the ingredients are there. And let's be super honest. Let's be super honest. If you really love someone, like it's a healthy love, not saying it's not gonna hurt, but it's a healthy type of love, why wouldn't you bring that person back regardless of the fact they're gonna be with you or not? So what? It wouldn't be her version of Lark. Lark would still be alive. And I think Moll would I will die on the hill that Moll would have said yes. Bring him back. I don't care what version of him is alive. I just want him alive. I know for a fact Moll would have said yes.
But would it be similar to though Terrian Giorgio and Prime Giorgio? They're two different experience, two different people that happen to be look the same, but they have different life experiences though. I mean, this Lark could be a monster
Oh, I'm not saying he wouldn't be. I'm saying Moll wouldn't care. Oh, I am not. I fully believe this man's going to go back to the Breen and take over and rule and be like, that was the old Lark. This is the new Lark. I'm Lark 2.0. Oh, I have no belief that this man's going to be an angel. I'm just saying their ingredients are there for Moll to fall in love, for him and Moll to fall back in love. That those ingredients are there. Moll would have said yes. And so for Michael to tell her there isn't a way to bring him back, I was like, you're just straight up lying to her. And if she ever finds out you lied to her, she's gonna go ape.
Yeah, I understand. Basically, the writers could have brought in other storylines to other seasons in Discovery by at least debating the species 10C thing, right? And the fact that they destroyed other planets and civilizations that, hey, looks like the whoever created Progenitors tech created.
But yeah, no, I definitely would have used it to. I mean, but also, how do you explain bringing back a whole society willy nilly? Like, how do you hide that from the world?
But that's the reason why it should have been a discussion with the president of the Federation, with President Relic and Tarina and so forth, before you get the actual tech. Like, okay, let's make a plan of what are we going to do once we get it?
And no, yeah, no, I agree. I'm agreeing with you, but I'm also saying,
And in that discussion, talk about
yeah,
the pros and cons, species sensei, and stuff like that.
because they're running from Tahal. They're already fighting this other Breen. Where's the line of what you bring back? Because if you like bringing back Lark is small enough thing to where you can sort of keep that under wraps. You can red directive that, like if he stayed within Starfleet or whatever. Like if they kept him captive, whatever, you can sort of red directive that, give him a new identity. He's a new person. Go to the other side of the galaxy, live your life. But like bringing back an entire planet that the world knows, that the universe knows is destroyed, like you can't really. I agree. It would be nice for them to bring back Krajan. I think I'm the one who stated they could have brought back Krajan. But now I'm changing my point. How do you hide that from Tal, from people who know it's been destroyed? And it's like, how did you bring it back? And then now you're always on the run of hiding the technology.
Oh no, I don't think they should have. I think they should have had the discussion to talk about the ramifications and what to do when Michael finally gets into that situation, because you should have some foresight and some planning, even if the Breen gets it first. Start to think about this long term. And we've seen this before. We've like once they jumped there, they didn't realize, oh, we need to quickly take the cylinder. They were like, oh, let's talk about
Let's be in awe.
yes.
Oh my God, it is 800 years old. If you don't grab it and go, it's a grab and go situation. Ain't no time for all oohing and ahhing. We got to go. They're hot on our tail. The block is hot. We got to go. They're on our tail. So we are able to see that the spore drive works even split between two ships, which I find is very cool. And that is a weapon if I've never seen a weapon before. So we have Saru coming back with Nan. They uncloak themselves. They're drawing the fire of the scout ship because they realize if the scout ship sees anything of the progenitor technology, it's going to report back to Hall and they're going to be right back at square one. And so the idea is to separate the spores and then make them jump the thing that's in between the spores. And I would have never thought of that. I would have never, and this is where, like, you know, people really do have like that brain for action and war plans and everything, because both Tilly and Hugh's husband, Paul, they're both like, no, 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 no. Actually, that could work when they talk the science out. And so it's also worked because Book can jump on one side, Paul can jump on the other side, depending on if they needed that power. And everything lines up. He screams, hit it or go, because it was slow motion. And we see them jump the Breen ship and the scout ship to a far off destination that's like decades away. They'll survive it, but it'll take them decades no matter what to get back to where they are. And by that time, who cares? And I'm saying not like Starfleet, but I mean like the Breen is like, if there's decades, he didn't say a decade, he said decades to get back. So that means like it's gonna be generations. And like at a certain point, am I gonna fight my dad's fight? We're gonna see. But the issue I have with them showing us that the spore drive can do that and it being the last episode is, do you know how many enemies you could take out that way? I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna jump you. Or even use that for other Starfleet ships that need to go somewhere really far. And it's like they don't have the spore drive. And you need to get like a whole fleet of ships across the universe at one time. You can now jump other Starfleet ships. Like it doesn't destroy the ship. It just jumps it.
So
I think
that's part of the art of war, really, is whoever really has the bigger guns, right, or the bigger ship, in this case is Breen, would typically win. But in this case, Discovery has advanced technology and also a smarter team that was able to be agile, to think on their feet creatively. And Breen was, I think, it was going through some hierarchy changes because they lost two key people in leadership in the last few hours. So they were scrambling. And then also you have Tahal and Chase. So they were not as I don't know, agile, flexible, just thinking about other ways to get, because they definitely had a bigger ship.
Yes, but it's like they had a big stick and no smarts, sadly. But when Michael gets on back onto the ship, here's the part where I'm gonna eat my words, people. Um, she just says that she's going to. They need to like get rid of this technology. It cannot be brought on board the ship. They can't use it. It has to be. It has to disappear and go into hiding. Like no one can know about this. And Paul's like, well, we have to study it. And I go back to my favorite line from Jurassic Park. Just because you could doesn't mean you should. And not everything is science. Paul, Paul. Some of the worst things in the world have ever happened is because the scientists decided to study something they should not have. And they opened up the door and learned something new that killed dozens of people. Do you know how many people would die to get their hands on this technology? It would be a never-ending war of it changing hands. You cannot use it. And he's seeing it from a scientific standpoint, which I totally understand. But all I could think of while he was talking was just because you could doesn't mean you should. And you shouldn't in this case. No one should have this power. That's why it was hidden in the first place. And Starfleet was around when it was hidden, and they still didn't even trust Starfleet with it.
My problem is the fact that that Michael asks for them to send the Progenitors tech to an event horizon and a black hole. Right. So I feel like that's not a secure enough place for it. Considering all the other hurdles they've gone through, all the puzzle pieces to get to this, and now it's in a black hole where someone can accidentally find it. And two, we already know that they've been traveling through black holes, and they were able to get the ISS Enterprise from a black hole. So I'm concerned that this is not a secure place. So you you took it from a secure environment and then like played it in a pseudo secure place.
It's
Not even a different quadrant, like in the same area.
Yeah, that yeah. No other words, but yeah. But we see that Micah goes back and explains her actions to Kovich, who I am going to say this vindication because I knew I didn't trust that man. Now, was I correct in saying he was evil? No. But was this man hiding something this entire time? Yes. And we find out that this man is named Agent Daniels from the USS Enterprise.
Oh, he goes way back to the Enterprise.
Enterprise, yes, that show. It's called Enterprise.
Right. But he's also been in other shows like Deep Space Nine and Next Generation. That character.
And so we see that he was hiding something. And I knew that man was hiding something. Because why else do you care about paper? Why else do you care about paper? That's where you got the paper from. When you stole it from the past. I knew it.
But what's worse is that he's decided that he's going to take Moll under his wing.
Didn't I call it? Didn't I call a couple episodes that Starfleet was going to try and
rehabilitate?
Yes, because my mouth is not mouthing that word. They are going to try and do that to that girl. And they did. And he is. And it's like, she has literally never given you a reason to trust her. She didn't even change her ways at the end. She literally joined the Breen. At every turn, this girl made the wrong decision. Why?
Even if she joins Section 31, which, like, he was able to time travel. So if he shares with her this information about time traveling and other undercover, she's still going to try to go back in time to save her man, Lark. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. She's going to try to go, I don't know, 5 years before whatever time this season started.
And then we get to the part that Moneca loves. Dun, 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 dun. A wedding. of Saru and Trina, the 30 seconds that we get to see of them and their amazing wedding garb, the 30 seconds out of this entire 90-minute episode, I'll give them more time. A minute. 60 seconds. What did you think of your 60-second wedding?
It's better than nothing. But I'm glad I also was able to see Saru a little bit before then, that it wasn't just all Tarina showing her leadership skills. And that slip that I made was actually my running joke that I have with myself, Saru and Tarina. Serena, get it. So, but yes, we were able to see their like wedding reception, not the formal wedding exchanging of vows, but we were able to see a celebration of their marriage. And I'm so like, I'm so happy that I was able to see this, and also this progressive stance of here's a powerful female that really proposed to her fiance, and also stood up against the community that she's around for this union. So that leads me into the fact that Duven, who really overstepped as her assistant and told really Saru to think about changing the date of the wedding, and maybe they shouldn't get married, maybe they shouldn't send out the announcements just yet.
He's drinking that haterade.
He was there and he announced their union, and so I was disappointed to see him there.
$10. Tarina was like, "You're gonna do this because I said so. Because I'm your boss. Oh, you don't like who I'm about to marry? You about to introduce us, and if you want to keep your job, you're gonna make it believable." I bet you she put him in his place, and I love that for her.
I love that. I would love to have seen that. But I was able to see her structured gold gown, uh, fitted. I was surprised at like how like American the wedding was, but I'm happy with the presentation and like the orchids that were flowing from the ceiling and the drapes, and the fact that there were lots of people there. It wasn't just a small ceremony of the two of them. That quite a few people from Discovery were able to attend. Not everyone. I still miss my Ditmer and Joanne, but the the crew members, the majority of the crew members and Vance was there, and Tilly's friend was there as well.
And then one of the other major points of this episode is Book and Michael finally get back together. And I'm not upset. I'm not happy, but I'm not upset. It almost seemed like they were over, and it was just sort of, because it just dragged on so much in this episode, this season, about the will they, won't they. And so, like, I'm glad there's an answer, and it's not like, it's not ambiguous. It's like, yes, we're going to do this. We're going to be together. And then like the time jump to the future to see that they've stayed together and that they're happy and old and happy and gray and wrinkly together. And she's an admiral now. Moneca, it looks like you have thoughts.
I think the episode should have ended after the discussion with Kovich about the Red Directive ending. Like that should have been the end. And I think everything, including the wedding scene that I like, and the rest of this happy ever after series of scenes, I think that should have been post credit. I think that should have been at the end or some bonus. It just feels like that wasn't well connected to the rest. And part of it was a reflection, and I think when she was sitting on the bridge, so it was a little weird for me to understand time in that, and to see the characters again. The flow wasn't there for me.
So I'm gonna do a really quick what the ending was, and then what I'm gonna say what I wish my dream ending would have been.
Okay.
So the ending was we see them at this farmhouse on a new planet. They have a son together. She's an admiral. Their son is now a captain. He's about to have his first seat, and she's about to go on a mission that basically is going to be like she's almost seems like she's never going to see her family again after this mission, which is sort of weird how they set it up. She said, "I'll see you in a few days," but she told Zora, "You're going to just go there and wait," which is weird. Um, but and then it ends with like a hugs of seeing all the crew member. But then when it goes back to her being her age, she's the only one on the ship. And it's like, let's fly. And that's the end of the episode, the end of the season. I think the better ending would have been when Michael and Book after they got back together and she's called in for another mission and you see her on the ship and all her crew's around her. And then she's looking out while she's still young. And she says, okay, let's fly. Like doesn't not say for the last time, not to even hint that this is the end, but like they did their job. Now they're going on to the next thing because then it's like the show never ended, quote unquote. Does that make sense? They're
Yeah.
going about their business.
Yes. So I listened to a behind the scenes, and the showrunners wanted to tie in this ending to Calypso, which is a short track.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't part of the series. Traditionally, Discovery is really good about of storytelling without relying on other episodes outside of the series, without knowledge of those.
Mm-hmm.
It should be able to work independently.
And so yeah, I felt like it would have been a better ending if she was sitting on the ship with the crew all looking around, like ready, okay, let's fly, without it having. I don't really need the time jump. I didn't need the time jump. Like we already had one time jump when they came to the future. I don't really need another one to see them like old and that they made it. I think it would have just been for me better, or like it never ends, or let's do this, like something to make it seem like the story is still continuing. Because for her to say last time, let's fly, I was like, I didn't really like that. I don't make it like I know the show was ending, but like don't end the show like that.
Unless they're trying to stick it to Paramount and say, okay, now we painted you in a corner. You can't. Like we've set several like benchmarks in here that you're gonna have to now achieve, and that's gonna be really hard to because now you'll have to cast Sonequa Martin Green for the next 25 years or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I like the connection with Book and Michael talking to their son. Once again, I wish that was post credit, but it shows that they were able to have a family. They were able to move on past their adventures together on the ship and actually settle down on a planet. And then we were able to see the tree, I guess he planted that Quajon root and it blossomed up into a tree, and Molly reproduced and stuff like that. So all of the other stories that they had together of how that they were going to like retire and stuff like that, they were able to fulfill. One last thing, I like the fact that Leto, their son, was named after Book's nephew who passed away, and that he took Michael to really her last voyage. And that reminded me of when Sarek introduced Michael to Deshenju and Giorgio. So instead of, it's basically a connection to her new family.
Yeah.
And less Vulcan and that rigidness. And he told her to behave. And then just like the fact that she has made her own way.
It wasn't a bad ending. It just wasn't my preferred ending. So that's all I have to say about that one. But normally we do at the end of our wrap up is like, what do we see coming next and what are predictions of maybe for next season? And we don't have that because there isn't another season. So any final thoughts, because all I can think of was I'm glad it did not end on a lull like season 3 and 4. If it ended like season 3 or 4, I think I would have cried. I think I would have flipped my table. I think I would have been like, okay, we're not recording. So I'm glad the ending seemed to fit the gravity of the situation, fit the ending somewhat. It wasn't like a complete another letdown. I feel good about watching season 5. I don't regret watching a single episode, which I can't say that about every single episode I've watched about other seasons. So I'm, except for Whistle Speak. Whistle Speak was just awful. So I think overall this was a nice episode to end to end this season, not the series, to end this season on. So that's my thought. That's my final thought. Moneca, what is your final thoughts?
My final thoughts, this has been a wonderful ride. I'm glad I've been able to live to see this. There's because I feel like there was a lot of Afrofuturism here,
Mm-hmm.
from the complexion of the progenitor that we were introduced to many of these lead characters. I felt like this storyline was rich and engulfed emotional intelligence and ramifications for actions. It's not like, so every action had then equal reaction and it continued, instead of like, oh, this happened, let's ignore that and let's like just keep moving. So I love this. I think it also opens, the way they ended this kind of opens the door for the other series and movies, for spinoffs for Tilly, and whether Michelle Yeoh picks up the Discovery ship or whatever. So I don't feel like it's over. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it can then spin off into other ways. At least that's what I'm telling myself. So that I
Yeah, that's why I'm like, if it ended with her just saying, "All right, another mission, let's do this, let's fly," I think that would have been great, because then you could have pulled everyone else from like other things versus them giving us, okay, her and Book ended up together, they have a kid, she's an admiral. Granted, we don't know what happened between then and now and then, so much, like there's still so much open endedness, but it's like when you sort of know the ending, is it really a mystery? So as always, I'm Andrea,
and I'm Anika.
and live long and